With us now is Daniel Luria, Executive Director of Ateret Kohanim. Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Nice to be here.
So news that we're hearing today, an important, significant commemoration for Irving Moskowitz of blessed memory.
Yes, Dr. Moskowitz, Irving Moskowitz, is something very special. First, we have to thank the mayor, Moshe Leon and Aryeh King and the others there that made sure that this happened. I mean, we're talking about a gentleman, a philanthropist at the level of Rothschild and Montefiore. I mean, what he has done for the city of Jerusalem, the revival of Jewish life, walking in the footsteps of giants like from the JNF and others who bought land and redeemed land, he's at that level. So there's no major freeway in the heart of Jerusalem, but nevertheless, to have a very important roundabout and intersection near one of what we would call the jewel of the crown projects that Dr. Moskowitz was involved in is obviously very, very special. That's in Ma'ale HaZeitim.
Really, tell us about the location and the significance about that specific location.
Well, if we always talk about the center of the Jewish world, it's clearly the Temple Mount, the Old City, the Mount of Olives. And on the Mount of Olives, notwithstanding huge amounts of pressure not to build the neighborhood, ultimately the neighborhood was built on old Jewish property, initially owned by Kollel Chabad and Volin. They initially wanted to, of course, to extend the cemetery, the Beit Almin on Har HaZeitim. It wasn't allowed. Eventually, it was. They grew wheat there for matzah shmura, for unleavened bread, and then, of course, with the 1948 war, it became under Jordanian control. But notwithstanding that, many years later, together with the help of Ateret Kohanim, obviously, who facilitated the acquisitions, the land was acquired, and Dr. Moskowitz, the Moskowitz Foundation and family were behind bringing back Jewish life to the Mount of Olives. It's not just a place. As I tell people, you don't have to be there horizontally. There are people that are now vertical, jumping. There's life on Har HaZeitim. Over 100 families living on the Mount of Olives today. And at the intersection, right there, appropriately to be named, Dr. Irving Moskowitz.
A few words about Irving Moskowitz. He was, approached by so many organizations and so many people and so many important things and good things. Tell us about the connection that he had to building Jerusalem.
Listen, I think that everyone has Jerusalem in their veins, but some people have it bubbling in their veins. And when it came to Jerusalem, his connection to Jerusalem, he lived in Jerusalem. He may not have physically been in Jerusalem, but the amount of projects and the involvement that he had in redeeming and reclaiming land, just like I say again, the JNF, who for over 100 years has been buying land, was central to who he was as a person, as a character. And to his wife also, it's Irving and Shona Moskowitz and the whole family. Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, is central to who they've been, and very, very modest people, but one has to only stand and in awe and look at the great things he's done for Jerusalem.
And in addition to the commemoration of Dr. Moskowitz, we're also talking about a very important decision by the municipality to commemorate two who were killed, murdered by terrorists in the Old City.
Yes, unfortunately, it's one of the more traumatic incidents for Ateret Kohanim and for all the families there. When Rav Nehemiah Lavi, who was living in Bet Wittenberg at the time, came down to try and save a woman, Benita, whose husband was just murdered a few minutes beforehand, and he quickly comes down. Unfortunately, he's also murdered right under Bet Wittenberg. It was shocking obviously for the family. We lost a very, very beautiful man, but the Mesiras Nefesh, his devotion, his commitment to life is something, it's hard to comprehend how someone does what he does, but he did it. And today, listen, a few things we managed to do in between. There's been what we call a true Zionist response, so a Pinah Hama, a warm spot for soldiers and for policemen and for the security escorts is there right there under Bet Wittenberg.
In their memory.
In his memory, there's also 5 families. One family was thrown out, had to leave the old city. So the only appropriate response we're not going to be driven out of here. Terror and hatred is not going to succeed. So 5 additional families were added to the old city. So terror won't work. But today was a very nice besorah that we heard that the kikar, the roundabout or the intersection right near where they were murdered, will be called in the memory of both of them.
Let's end with your activity and specifically about restoring the synagogue in the Yemenite village. And it's not so easy. Some organizations are causing some problems.
It's one of the great miracles, the fact that it even exists. There was so much destruction in the 30s. It wasn't just a matter of Arabs squatting in old Jewish properties. We're talking about physical destruction. There were letters written to the British, who, by the way, only last week wrote in the House of Commons that they identify with the poor Arabs. The British have obviously forgotten that they were the ones who physically took out the Yemenite Jews in August of 1938 with the promise that those refugees should be able to return. So it's a certain amount of audacity to talk about that the Jews don't have rights to go back there. But the synagogue, remarkably, was hidden behind all this illegal Arab building, and it's slowly but surely, together with private donors from Australia and America and also the government, helping to restore a heritage site. And it's just an amazing project. Sadly, there are some people on the left wing, I think it's Ir Amim and other fringe groups that are trying even to stop the government from investing money there in a heritage site. I mean, but it'll keep on going. It's happening. It's unfolding.
That doesn't stop you guys.
It doesn't stop the Hekdesh, the Sanctified Trust, who's really the ultimate body that has all this land there. It's not going to stop, obviously, Ateret Kohanim, and it won't stop the reality of this revival of Jewish life in a very, very special area overlooking the city of David, the old city, the Yemenite village.
Daniel Luria, Ateret Kohanim, thank you very much and good luck.
Pleasure. Toda rabah.